So in the last video, we discussed about the 2018 books that I bought, and in this next video, we are going to discuss every single book that I bought this year, 2019. So what I had in mind when it came to this year was that I would focus more on buying or finding the Wheel of Time books and then just not buy anything at all afterwards. Kasi I had a lot of books to read and still haven't read na nandun lang sa bookshelf ko. That was my goal. That was my perspective of what I wanted to do this year, 2019. I didn't want to buy so many books, but that didn't happen. Still ending up buying a lot of books. So we are going to dive into that. Let's just get into book 1. So the first book that I bought for this year was book 8 of the Wheel of Time series, The Path of Daggers by Robert Jordan. Of course, he is the creator of the Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time is the epic fantasy series created by Robert Jordan. Not much about this book. I haven't read it, of course, because I have an array of books that I still have to read and I have not completed the search for the Wheel of Time. So as I have discussed in the previous video, I will not start or begin to read any of the Wheel of Time books as long as I don't have every single one of the books. Book 2, the second book in this video, The Magic of Recluse by ELMO. This is the first book of another epic fantasy series called The Saga of Recluse. The reason why I bought it is because I just wanted to buy it. And finding the first book in a book series is very hard to find. So for the third book, it's called Glory Lane by Alan Dean Foster, a prolific author of many books, many science fiction books. He writes books for the Star Wars franchise, for the Star Wars books franchise. So yeah, this is one of his earlier works called Glory Lane. As you can see, it's very colorful, which is also why I wanted to buy this book. It's mainly because of the cover. So yeah, moving on. I have read this book and I did not expect to like it. It's called Speaker for the Dead by Orson Scott Card. This is the sequel to Ender's Game. If you have watched the movie and are wondering why they did not try to do a direct sequel to the Ender's Game movie, the story of the book jumps 3,000 years after the first book. In Ender's Game, Ender was a kid. When it came to Speaker for the Dead, he is a grown man hopping galaxies, and 3,000 years has passed. And because of space-time, he wasn't able to age the same speed as everybody else. The book is up there when it comes to the quality of Ender's Game. I think they're both in the same level. Next book is called Legion of Space by Jack Williamson. I read this book, but I did not finish this book. I thought it was going to be good. Reading it sort of felt like I was not reading anything at all. The next book is called Xenocide by Orson Scott Card. This is the third book in the Ender's Game saga. The next book is called Three Musketeers by Alexander Dumas. This is a very thick book. This version of the book you should not buy. You should not purchase this version of the book. The problem with this book, mainly because of the translator. The translator did not do a really great job. If you're going to grab a copy of the Three Musketeers, I recommend purchasing the Bantam Classics version. The next book, it's called 2001 A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. There is a movie about this, the greatest of all time science fiction movie. I have not finished reading it yet. Arthur C. Clarke has an amazing way of bringing detail to scenery, makes you dive into what it means and what is happening to the story. So far, I really like reading this book. The next book we have Star Wars Tales from a Galaxy Far Far Away, Aliens Volume 1. It is within the Star Wars universe. I don't even know where it takes place. I just up and wanted to get this book. Next book is another Star Wars book, Star Wars The Last Jedi. I have not read this book, of course, because I do not have a copy of The Force Awakens yet. Next books, we have Gathering Storm by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. It is the 12th book in the Wheel of Time franchise. The next book, called New Spring by Robert Jordan. It is the prequel to Eye of the World by Robert Jordan himself. The next book, Songs of Distant Earth by Arthur C. Clarke. So the next book is called Slipped by Alan Dean Foster. This is another Alan Dean Foster book. I have a lot of Alan Dean Foster books this year alone, and the reason why is I really am interested in basically buying not really all but most of his books. I want to know if I can do that. So yeah, this is one of his more earlier works called Slipped. And then this is another Alan Dean Foster book. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I'm going to attempt it now. Croissant. Cusel, I think. Or cool. I think it's croissant. Croissant. I don't know. I don't even know. As you can see here, there is a flip-amation, blah blah blah. I think you'll find next book. So it's called Android at Arms by Andre Norton. It only costed me 8 pesos. It is a man versus machine type of story, type of deal. I have not read this book yet, but I will soon. I will do another video of the books I have not read yet. I will list it down in order for me to organize the books that I'm gonna read next and the books. Yeah, basically. The next book is called The Ship That Sailed the Timestream by G.C. Edmondson. One thing about this book is that I obviously bought it for the cool looking book cover. And of course the story really captured me because it's about time travel. I really like stories that concern time travel. I have not read this book. In the future I will read it. The next book, Roger Space, another Alan Dean Foster book. It is another science fiction book, so if it's good or bad, we'll see. It's about daily appliances becoming sentient and then taking over the world. I don't know. The next book is actually not a book that I bought for myself. It is a book that was bought to me by a friend of mine. It is the same friend as before, as last year. Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. And when it was my friend's birthday, I gave that person an old book of mine. It's called American Gods by Neil Gaiman. The next book is called Jimmy Go by Go Pon Song. This is not really fiction book. This is more of a historical anecdote of a Japanese historian, I think, at the time of their reign in the Philippines. Obviously, going to pick this book up. It only costed me 10 pesos kasi I just found it at book sale. The next book in this video, Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I was never interested in reading Scarlet Letter, but this book really captured me because for some reason it has what you would call an owner's footprint, a book reader's footprint, or a bookworm's footprint. I don't know. If you look, there are some scribbles, there are some words written, goes on and on. So yeah, it becomes blue in the middle. I think this was a coffee stain, I don't know. Then it ends here. So I think the reason alone as to why I bought it was because of, the footprints that the previous owner left for the next reader or the next owner, which is me. So hopefully I get interested in reading it. The next book is not really a story. It's not really a storybook. It's more of an encyclopedia. The documentary history series of Witchcraft. This is a very thin book, hardbound. It has a lot of things regarding witchcraft, about demonic summonings, demonic rituals. It has some very, 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 very dark illustrations, much like this. It's a very scary book. Even now, I try to question myself, why did I buy the book? So that I could hopefully get something from the book, which I could use when writing a magic system, when it comes to writing villains, their magic systems, basically anything that involves the supervillain of whatever story I'm trying to write. The next book is called Fuzzy Sapiens by H.B. Piper. This is the sequel to the last book that I bought in 2018, which is Little Fuzzy. I was supposed to read this after reading Little Fuzzy, but I insisted on not reading it because I don't have the sequel to this book yet. I have not found it. And I feel like if I were to enjoy reading this, I would then want to read the next book. So I'm not going to read it yet. I will once I find the sequel to this book. And it might take me a while. But we'll see what happens. Last book so far that I was able to buy this year, Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. It is a complete and unabridged version, the classic tale of Alice in Wonderland. It has a lot of book illustrations. This is one of them.
Meron pa akong isang nabili after nung Alice in Wonderland. Nabili ko lang to 2 days ago. It's called Crossroads of Twilight by Robert Jordan. This is the book 10 of the Wheel of Time series. Nakita ko siya sa chapters and pages. Fisher Mall. Okay, let's go back to the previous version of the younger version of myself.
Wow, a lot of books. So yeah, a lot of books have been discussed today. Very tired. I don't know. I'm tired of talking, so I'm going to wrap this up. This is the number of books that I bought this year, and then this is the amount of money that I spent this year. And it's only August 1 as I am recording this video. So I still have like 5 more months this year. Let me know if you liked the books that I bought this year. Let me also know if I should stop buying so many books. I mean, it's not really an unhealthy thing to do. It's unhealthy because I end up putting a lot of books in bookshelves and not having to read them until I finish the current book that I'm reading. A lot of the books that I bought, as I have noticed, I have not read. I feel like I'm the worst booktuber in YouTube in general. I don't know.
I think I have something to say, and maybe someone out there wants to listen.